And welcome into this edition of ACAP Today for the second half of February 2024. I'm Jason Parent with Aroostook County Action Program. On this edition of ACAP Today, you may have heard about this through the media. It's the Home Energy Assistance Program. Because of the high demand and the number of individuals seeking assistance this year, the program is actually running out of money and will stop taking new applications, at least temporarily, on March 1st. We're going to learn about what's happening behind the scenes, how that's being mitigated to help as many Aroostook County households who have not yet been processed for this year get processed for the Home Energy Assistance Program. That's in our feature interview with Energy and Housing Program Coordinator Josh McAtee in just a little bit. But before we get to Josh and that conversation, we're first going to get to the news and information that you can use again for the second half of February 2024. And we start with the news and information that you can use with this. It's a partnership note up in the St. John Valley. We partner with Pine Tree Legal Assistance, where they take up residence in our location in Madawaska, located at 88 Fox Street, across from Martin's in the same building as AMHC, and right there next door to North State Federal Credit Union. Now, the Pine Tree Legal team is on site the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. They are there from 1 until 3 p.m. Now, for more information about Pine Tree Legal and the services they offer, and to make sure that you can see someone if you're in the St. John Valley at our Madawaska office on the second and fourth, I should say, Tuesday of each month, visit www.ptla.org. Up next, this is specifically for youth ages 16 through 21 out there. We have opportunities for youth, whether you're in school or out of school, in high school or in college perhaps, and these are great for summer learning opportunities as well, to get paid to attend 20 hours of classroom education and 40 hours of paid work experience. Now, you get to spend time as well with a career counselor or coach to receive counseling, resume writing help, interviewing skills, training, as well as discovering career options. You can also, enrolled in this program, get financial support for things like driver's ed, which are necessary to get to and from a job. You can get mileage reimbursement to get to and from that job, and helping you overcome any other challenges around childcare if that is a challenge for you. It can also help you purchase items for school, such as supplies, tools, and clothes and uniforms specific to any profession that you'd like to join. Now, again, this is specifically for youth ages 16 through 21. You can email us at info@acap-me.org or call 764-3721 extension 5. Just hit 5 there. We are encouraging anybody out there who has youth in the age 16 through 21 category to consider this. It's a perfect opportunity for the not too far in the distance summer vacation opportunity for youth to get paid to do a number of things, including a job placement in a career that may be their future career. The Cinderella Project of Maine is wrapping up its open season. The remaining dates on the calendar in the latter half of February are the Thursday, the 22nd of February from 9 in the morning until 4 p.m. and Friday, the 23rd of February from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. These are both days during the February school break. So we're certainly encouraging any youth, whether you're going to a pageant or a prom or whatever the case may be, to come in on one of those 2 days. We have thousands of dresses, on the hundreds anyway, I should say, on the third floor of the 480 Main Street building. It's a project, the Cinderella Project of Maine comes to Aroostook County, is a collaboration between ACAP and our sister CAP, Waldo Community Action Partnership in Waldo County, Maine, and we thank them for all that they have done to support us in this project and make it possible for young ladies and young men. There is some clothing for young men up there for the Cinderella Project of Maine. Check it out in the remaining 2 days of this year's open season. We are also at tax season right now, and we continue to take appointments. We have a number of people who have already had their processing in the first couple of weeks of the season, but we are booking into all the way through the first week of April. These are for households with an income of $64,000 or less in 2023. And in addition to tax preparation by a great team of Aroostook Cash Coalition volunteers, What you also get through the service is an ability to navigate to other programs and services and some financial literacy information on what you might be able to do with any return you get. And I can say in the first couple of weeks of the program, our volunteers are spectacular, and some people are getting some pretty fantastic returns, even bringing them to tears. So it's a great opportunity for folks to have their taxes taken care of if your household is earned under $64,000 in 2023. Consider signing up for the Aroostook Cash Coalition Tax Prep Program, 764-3721, and you can make your appointment there. Appointments this year, apologies for this, are only in Presque Isle at our customer service center near Walmart. However, our receptionists, as appointments are available, try their darndest to work with people around when they might already be making a trip north or south, depending on where you come from. So please, if you need more information on this, other than calling us here at ACAP, you can go to cashmain.org. Up next, Housing Navigation Services. ACAP continues to offer these services for individuals who are either experiencing homelessness or having housing vulnerability. Now, in the Housing Navigation Program, you can develop a housing stability plan. It can help you acquire documentation required for housing. Oftentimes, individuals who are trying to get into housing have lost or misplaced some of the critical paperwork that's needed for them to get into housing. We'll help you with that. We can refer you to community resources as you're trying to get into a housing situation. We'll also look with you at housing searches, including setting appointments and assisting with paperwork related to housing applications, whether those are rental units or other. And we'll also work on explaining tenant rights. Now, we can also help households who are trying to avoid evictions before they happen. So we don't just say, call us when you're in the position of actually being without a place to stay. And we'll also help families overcome any tenancy challenges that they may have as well. Up next, come and join our team. We're encouraging folks, specifically those in early care and education, to consider joining the ACAP team. There is now up to $625 for early childhood educators, depending on your educational attainment and what position you are in here at ACAP. Those positions include teacher associate, teacher bachelor, ed tech 2 and 3, and teacher aides. For more information or a full list of job openings beside just the early care and education positions, please call us here at ACAP at 764-3721 extension 188, or for a full list of job openings, visit acap-me.org/join our team. Join Drug Free Aroostook Coalition. We've been talking about this the past several broadcasts. It is a program of Aroostook County Action Program. We're the financial source here, but it's a separate coalition called the Drug Free Aroostook Coalition. They meet at 1 p.m. on the third Friday of every month via Teams, so you can do it from wherever you are. They work on things like changing community-wide policies around substance use, changing school policies to better help youth make smart decisions, designing communication campaigns around prevention matters, hosting drug-free social events, and empowering youth to engage in community change, as well as offering youth and parent education and trainings. For a meeting link or for any questions that you'd like answered, contact Mallory Holmquist at 764-3721 extension 151, or her email address is there on your screen. Main Care. This is a notification about some expansion of eligibility in Main Care. They continue to offer high quality free health insurance for children under 21 in eligible households. More families now qualify. A family of 4, for example, earning up to $90,000 per year may be eligible for coverage. Visit maincare.kids/gov for more information. And we are, speaking of children, ACAP, in partnership with a Vitamin Angels program, is now offering free prenatal vitamins for any women of childbearing age. If you're considering getting pregnant, or if you are pregnant, please turn to us, 764-3721. You can also connect with our WIC program. They will help you connect with these multivitamins to help you ensure hopefully a healthy baby if you are looking at getting pregnant again. That's a Vitamin Angels program. Reach out to us here at ACAP. This is a great program for all community members, women of childbearing age. And if there's something that we haven't talked about that you are in need of assistance with, ACAP has navigators here at the agency, and we can help you connect with the right program, whether it's here in our agency or with some of our partner agencies in the community. We're here to help answer those questions. So if you have those questions, please do give us a call at 764-3721. And that's the news and information that you can use for the second half of February 2024. And as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we're welcoming now to the program Josh McAtee, who's ACAP's Program Coordinator for Energy and Housing Services. Josh, welcome back.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, Josh, we've heard it through the media. We heard it just a couple of weeks ago about the Home Energy Assistance Program season ending early here in Maine. Can you provide us with the context and perspective of what that means? And then we'll talk about what ACAP is doing to sort of work around that problem. So I'll turn it to you to sort of give us what this means.
Absolutely. So what this means is Maine Housing does project that they will be running out of funding, and they believe that they can cover all applications for HEAP benefits that are done by the end of the day on March 1st. So that covers, people, if you need kerosene or any other heating assistance benefits, wood, etc., you will need to get your application started with us before March 1st. And there are some more particulars about what we can do after March 1st, and we can get into that as you want to.
Sure. So March 1st is a fast approaching date here. Talk about what you and your team have been doing. I know that there were scheduled appointments for after March 1st, and I understand that you're trying to make some shifts happen and everything work out so we can get as many people processed before that date. Talk about that effort.
Absolutely. So after March 1st, we're still going to be able to do what we call heat and eats, which are people who are in subsidized housing that have their heat included. And HEAP is used as a way to give them approval for enhanced food stamp benefits. So we'll still be able to get people approved for those enhanced food stamp benefits after the 1st. So what we're doing is we're moving the people, which we purposely scheduled in February, so that we could get people the heating assistance first and then focus on those food stamp benefits. So we're moving those food stamp benefit appointments from February into March. That way we can take whoever needs an appointment currently. We had about 270 that we needed to move. We're basically done moving them. And now we're looking at all the people who have called in since the news has gone out, which is about 100 people. So we're rescheduling to get those 100 people into the month of February so that they can get their heating benefit.
So as of the time of this recording, we're approaching mid-February. How is that effort going, and what are your thoughts in terms of our ability to be able to help as many people as we can before that March 1st looming deadline hits?
It's going really well. We don't have a ton of flexibility with the scheduling, but as far as people being able to make the appointments that we do schedule them for, we are going to be able to get everyone who, as of today, has asked for an appointment done by March 1st that needs an actual HEAP benefit, not a $21 check. And I hope that this helps people who have not received a benefit yet this season or have not applied, who do need an actual heating benefit, to please call us as soon as possible so that we can get you scheduled before that March 1st date. As time is closing and we do want to get everyone in and get them their benefit.
Now, are you getting any indication, Josh, that this is happening in other parts of the state as well, that sort of folks are trying to hurry things up to get folks in before this March 1st deadline? And if so, does that worry you at all in terms of folks that may be able to even get in before the March 1st deadline, but unfortunately, because of the huge spigot of folks getting in, that the money runs out anyway?
Yeah, that is a worry. A lot of the CAPs had many more appointments in the month of March through May than we did. So some had upwards of 1,000 or 1,500 people who need heating assistance, and they knew they're not going to be able to reschedule all of those people in. So they've opened up additional, intake room to do more people, but they're not doing the whole reschedule piece as much. There might be a couple who are, but there still is lots of CAPs who have the month of February booked full of people who need a HEAP benefit, and there is a limited amount of money. And Maine Housing did do a projection. We don't know how accurate that's going to end up being. So there is always a risk of those dollars running out because everyone in the state shares those dollars.
Now, Josh, probably the only thing that we've had working in our favor this winter is it hasn't been as cold as other Aroostook County winters historically have been. But the deck is kind of stacked against folks in the home energy assistance program this year, especially as you look at it comparatively to last year. I'm going to bring up a slide that you had actually prepared for a community forum that we did at the beginning of the heating season. And unfortunately, our hope, our really intention, if things were going to change and turn around, hasn't happened, and we're hitting into the latter months now of the heating season as March is almost upon us. So it really is a very different picture this year than it has been for the past few years through the pandemic for home energy assistance program customers. Walk us through this if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So we prepared this before we actually knew for sure what the benefit amounts were going to be, but this was based off the guidance Maine Housing gave us. We were hoping we were going to update this 2023-2024 portion on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, this has been accurate to the amount of benefits that are available. We were hoping to get one of those supplemental payments or something similar to a winter energy relief payment this year to try to set off these numbers. As you see in the left column, that is the benefits that were received by people last year. So the top line is your regular HEAP benefit, then the ACAP benefit, and then the supplemental payment, which you can see is 0 on the right-hand column because there was no supplemental payment this year as much as we had hoped there would be something. And same thing with the winter energy relief payment. There's not been one of those for this season. Another thing to mention about the energy crisis program is we have been limited to doing 100 gallons per ACAP, which is somewhere between $400 and $500 depending on what your heating source is. So to get that $800 benefit, you actually have to over the course of probably about a month, come in twice. It would be like you're below a quarter of a tank, you get 100 gallons, you wait for that to run out, and then you can ask for another 100 gallons.
Wow. So let's stick with that topic for just a moment, and that's emergency fuel. Probably as a result of the chart that you've just shared, we've seen a huge increase in emergency calls, both for those who qualify for what the program is that we just had up on the screen called Energy Crisis Intervention Program, which is part of the federal program, but also for households, because there's no winter energy relief program, as you pointed out, also for households who are slightly over income for that, but are still struggling this year with the cost of everything still being exponentially higher than it was, say, in the winter of 2019, 2020, before we really dipped into some of the pandemic inflationary factors. So talk about what that demand has been like as it relates to emergencies.
The demand's been incredible. Obviously, with lower benefits going out the door, we knew we were going to expect additional emergency requests because if you used to be able to get 300 gallons with your benefit and now you're only able to get 100 gallons, then obviously you have 200 gallons that you need to come out of your own pocket to pay for. And that's a lot over the course of a winter. You know, that's roughly $1,000 per household that they need to come up with. So if they're not able to cover all of that, they're going to end up being in an emergency situation and making that request.
And we've actually had actually a period this winter, which is not typically the case, where we have been out of emergency fund dollars, the non-federal funds, for a period of time as we wait for the Keep Me Warm funds, for example, to replenish that amount. What does that feel like for you and your team? Because it's typical that we try to have a balance even moving into a following season, because the month of October can be very cold in Aroostook County and the federal program is not accessible at that point. So your thoughts about the non sort of federally subsidized emergency funds that we work through here at ACAP.
Yeah, so we've helped a lot of people with those funds. We spent over $120,000 of donated funds for some different pools. And it is really tough to juxtapose dealing with this current winter, how things are going, and knowing that money doesn't get released until November for heating assistance next year. And the month of October is generally very cold. And there's people who don't fill their tank over the summer. And then all of a sudden they notice when they go to turn it on in late September or October that they're out. And you know, we do our best to help people in those situations. But this year, we will likely not have any donation funds left when we get to this October. And that will be a first for us, as we've worked really hard to save some amount of money because we know that's going to be a situation that happens. Like I said, we have helped a ton of people, both over income and HEAP benefits. So out of total emergency calls that we've received, we have rectified 1,141 emergency situations this season. So that's between November 1st And as of today, when we were recording, 212. So that's unbelievable, honestly. Other CAP agencies are always in awe at the amount of people that we're able to help. We usually do about double or triple what a lot of the other CAP agencies do through their programs. Mostly just because of demand. As we know, like our situation in Aroostook, it's a little bit colder, generally speaking. And, we work with what we have, and we really try hard to satisfy the needs of the community.
So certainly March and April are heating months here in Aroostook County. How are people faring right now? The benefit is lower. Many of them have gotten their benefit for the season and come back again for an emergency. Are people going to make it through this heating season? What are you hearing?
We have a decent amount of people calling in who have already exhausted all resources. That's really tough. It's a hard conversation to have, as here at the ACAP branch of HEAP. We've really prided ourselves the last few seasons on being able to, help people with those situations, but we are a supplemental program and we have limits to what we're able to do. So by the time somebody's received their initial benefit and 2 batches of ESIP and a donation, possibly, if they qualify, that's 3 to 4 different instances of assistance, and that's all we're able to do, unfortunately. And there's still, 2.5, maybe 3 months of the heating season left, and it is going to be a difficult time for those people.
And certainly as we head into the next heating season, as well as you've already pointed out. So are you hearing anything? And I know certainly probably you asking me this question, but I was at the state legislature last week, and there's a governor's supplemental budget that's set to come out, and it's anybody's guess, I guess, as to whether or not there's additional fuel assistance, but time is of the essence, clearly. Are you hearing anything about any possible light at the end of the tunnel as it relates to this? Potentially another work or supplemental or anything of that nature?
Nothing of that was covered by McAtee or anybody in the Energy Council. So we heard whispers about 2 months ago that something was going to come forward, and it never did. So I don't have any information of light at the end of the tunnel right now.
And no additional information on any federal additional release as well. Wow. All right, Josh, it is, yes. And as you pointed out, we do want to sort of reiterate that to folks that the Home Energy Assistance Program is intended, as Josh pointed out, to be a supplemental program. That might have gotten sort of lost in translation in the past 2 or 3 years, where the benefit has been such that some homes have been able to sustain their entire heating costs. And we certainly understand that that's a hardship for folks to go from that situation to the situation we currently find ourselves in, especially with the fact that some of the mitigating factor costs, like the cost of energy, albeit slightly lower than it was last season at this point. But we can't say the same for things like electricity and groceries and other household items, which certainly, Josh, have not returned to pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Costs are going to continue going up, but as we've returned to pre-pandemic levels of funding, and during that pandemic time, more people than ever started applying for this assistance. And because it is based on whether or not you qualify, there is a lot of people who had historically qualified that had never actually made the move to apply. And now that they are applying, we have to cut that pie up into more pieces, which without additional funding does mean that each individual will get a lower amount of benefit.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think we were talking an average benefit in the pre-COVID days of that season 2019, 2020, initially an $800 benefit. And it's simply a factor of divisible math, I guess, that it's lower post-pandemic than it was going into it by sheer volume alone. I talk about the number of customers we've seen increased, like just from the previous season and last season. We've seen a pretty significant jump from one season to last season, correct?
Yeah, if you go over like the last 4 years, it's kind of considerable. And the other factor, of course, is both last year and this year, the funding ran out early. So you're talking about not even full seasons for the last 2 years. But regardless of that, the last 2 years have hit record highs for applications both years. One missing, last year we missed 2.5 months of the season, and this year we will miss 3 months of the season, but also close 1 month early because that was a planned closure 1 month earlier in the season. So almost a quarter of the year this year, we will not be taking applications, in which 2 years ago we took year-round applications, and we will still only doing applications for 75% of the year, hit over 2,000 more applications than in the 2022 program year, which is kind of astounding and just shows the need that's out there. And of course, the more need there is, the more paperwork there is to process, the more phone calls there is to take, and we do our absolute best to try to get back to everyone as fast as possible. But there is an additional administrative burden while we still have the same number of staff to work with.
And pretty much at this point, Josh, the most helpful things folks out there in the community can do is that I'm assuming that is assume if something is not in proper order with an application that you may have completed in terms of getting through to certification, that it will be us that will call you.
Yes, we will call you, and if we notice that anything is missing, and in an off chance that we make a mistake and we do get all the way through and we have to make a denial, you do have 3 weeks after the denial is made to be able to get that reversed. If we don't get your signed application in within 20 days, Maine Housing makes us void the application because they want it to be signed within 20 days of your phone application. And in that situation, we can't reverse it. So if you do have a phone app, especially this time of year, please make sure that you get that into us. If it gets lost in the mail, etc., you can always come into one of our offices and sign it in person, even if you did a phone application, because we're getting to the point where we won't have enough time to reschedule you by time you get voided. And we want to make sure that people who do phone applications get in and get their assistance the same as everyone else.
I also think it's important to note that some of the downstream revenue that HEAP there actually used to be a surplus in many years of HEAP funding, and some of the impact beyond the HEAP program has extended into some of our housing programs. If you could help cover that for folks, so some folks who might understand why it's more difficult getting a furnace replacement or a weatherization project, albeit other funds have kicked in that regard. Talk about the downstream revenue implications.
Yeah, absolutely. So the umbrella of HEAP funding does cover more than just HEAP benefits. And part of that, as Jason mentioned, is furnace repairs, a program we call CHIP, and weatherization. So a portion of our dollars for weatherization comes from HEAP, and we use that in order to keep the overall costs down of doing that work. And without that, it is very expensive to weatherize a home because things have not gotten cheaper over the last 5 years, although the metrics we're expect to meet as far as cost pricing is the same. So if you have like roughly $8,200 to do a weatherization job and it's costing you closer to $12,500, without that additional HEAP funding, which we received 0 of this year for weatherization HEAP funding, we're not able to cut that costing. What we did end up receiving later on was a set amount of money that we had to choose to split between those two programs of the weatherization and the furnace repair, which is really tough because how can you say that any one thing is more important than the other? We have limited funding. So we took as much as we could afford to and put it into furnace repair because we don't want people to be in a situation when where they're cold. But that is not satisfactory meeting the need. We are going to be able to probably satisfy everyone who is elderly that is on our wait list for furnace repair and everyone who has children under 2, and that's probably about it. Just due to that, we needed some of that funding to go towards weatherization, because if we did not do that, then we wouldn't have been able to continue doing the weatherization.
Very difficult decisions as many households themselves are having to make in these days, but certainly good to understand, as unfortunate as that information is to hear, that there is implications beyond just the home energy assistance program that people traditionally think of in terms of putting fuel in the tank. It's the actual functioning of the systems and the home's envelope that are also being impacted by the additional tax on the HEAP program and the lack of additional funding addressing it. Before we sort of end this topic, I do want to bring up the income eligibility guidelines for the season and sort of have you talk through those, even though I think it gives folks an idea, because I think folks are still out there who maybe don't have appointments, and certainly as a new season is obviously not that far off as we end this one and be looking forward to taking new appointments probably starting in July. We want to give this information out to people so that they're aware as well. And again, these will change for what will become the 2024-2025 heating season, but there have been changes here as well, not necessarily in your tenure with us, but prior to that. When we talk about an income eligibility guideline, and the look back for that. Josh, could you address how far back we look? Because sometimes variables change awful quickly, and in the past, it's been very difficult for somebody to get HEAP same season if they've had something happen to their household, like a layoff or a health issue that has required them to have to struggle financially.
Yes, the one thing that I really like that they've made change in recent years is we're allowed to look at the previous month to your application. So if you apply in the month of February, we're going to be looking at January's income. And this is very useful, especially for people who end up in a situation where there's a surprise layoff, someone loses their job. All of a sudden, someone who did not expect that they were going to need assistance is in a situation where they need to ask for help. And it's wonderful that now, if you lose your job in the month of December and you have one less income in your house for the whole month of January, you can now apply in February and qualify based on these income guidelines we have here. So if you have a family of 3 and now your household income is below that $4,398, which normally it wouldn't be, and maybe for 10 months out of the year it wasn't, but for the 1 month we're looking at, which is the month before you apply for assistance, if it is under that income, then you can qualify.
Yeah, good for folks to know there. You see the income eligibility guidelines again. These are for the 2023-2024 heating season that we're currently in right now. New ones will be released before the 2024-2025 heating season, and they typically tend to go up at least by a few dollars in each household size category. So we'll put that information out as soon as we get it. Josh, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that we should let folks know about where we stand with the program? It sounds like we're going to be dark for a few months here in terms of an ability to process new applications. At least that's what we're hearing right now.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go over what, just in case somebody's watching this after March 1st, right? So it's like, we definitely want to get people in before March 1st. That's our main concern right now. We're putting a lot of effort into that. But once we get past March 1st, we're still going to be able to do those subsidized with heat included $21 checks. So if you're in that situation, no worries. We can do that in March. We could do that, hopefully in April. We don't have really an end date at this point for those. Additionally, we'll be able to process normal HEAP applications for no benefit. And that sounds strange, but the reason we would do that is because it gives you access to 2 services that are electricity based. One is the LIAP, which is an electrical credit, which this year has actually almost doubled in the amount of credit that it's offering. So for some people, that ends up being more than their HEAP benefit. It can be between $300 and $700. So if you hear this after March 1st and you do fall into those income areas, it would be worth it just to do your application just so you can get that electrical credit. And it also opens you up to be able to do the AMP program through Versant, which is the arrangement program. So if you're more than $500 in arrears of your electric bill, that's the one thing we can do right now to really help with that. It's a long-term payment management program where you get credited every month a small amount off your bill as long as you just keep on making that payment arrangement.
Yeah, good point, Josh, because oftentimes that's the case of what happens here. While folks were really struggling with electric bills through the pandemic that were going higher, there was more of an offset on the traditional energy cost for home heating oil through the Home Energy Assistance Program and other sources as well. So hopefully, if you listen to what Josh just said carefully there, that you consider applying anyway because of the gateway opportunities to other programs where the benefits right now are supporting additional costs that they weren't in previous years, such as electrical assistance, which many people are struggling with as well. So unfortunately, it kind of tends to be that kind of a game of whack-a-mole every once in a while with the programs and where funding and priorities shift from time to time. But our team, I think, is well equipped to be able to help guide people through that. Anything else we've left out of the discussion?
The last reason that I would say it's still good to apply in both cases before and after March 1st is we will be able to continue processing emergency applications for emergency fuel as long as we have funding for that. So our funding is whittling down. I don't know how long it will last because we never know what the need is from a week-to-week basis. But that funding is allocated directly to ACAP. And we're able to spend that specific funding past March 1st until we run out of that emergency funding.
Great, very good information to have and to know. So folks, if you are out there struggling and find yourself with no or under a quarter of a tank of oil, or your heating source is really dwindling, do give us a call. For emergencies, we'll be able to process those as long as funding allows after the March 1st date. Good point to point out. All right, Josh McAtee, the Program Coordinator for Energy and Housing here at ACAP. Thank you so much for being our guest to sort of talk through what is a very confusing, complicated, and stress-inducing situation for many people out there who are hearing about this. I'm sure we will be hearing more as things progress in this season, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that any supplemental budget released by the governor or any additional levity in Washington, D.C. to sort of bring this issue up might be helpful, but we're not holding our breaths at this point on that. So folks, please work with us. Our staff are working very hard and as diligently as possible. And we appreciate any kindness that you can show as you're interfacing with them, because this is not a situation of their making, certainly. But they are doing the best that they can with what we have to work with. And so my thanks to you and your staff, Josh. I know it's not easy, especially in these days where the news is not good, and the amounts are not what they have been. And when you juxtaposition that with what we've seen the past 3 years, it's especially difficult on your team that's sort of coming right at the nexus and right on their shoulders. So appreciate that. Appreciate the work of the team. Appreciate all of you for joining us. Before you leave us on this edition of ACAP Today, as we do at each point in the broadcast, we bring you our highlight snapshot. And our highlight snapshot is some of our team members pictured here who recently completed an overdose response and Narcan administration training. These are some of the friendly folks and faces you'll see at our ACAP 771 Main Street customer service and throughout the communities serving the people of Aroostook County, and making sure that our customers who come to us who might be in a situation where they need assistance such as this are in good hands. So we thank them. And again, we thank all of you for joining us. That's this second half of February edition of ACAP Today. We'll be back in the first half of March with a brand new edition. Until then, have a great rest of your month, everyone.